Hi, it's Ursula from ursula-smith.com, and today I'm going to be playing around with burlap. I want to try and see if I can stamp on it, and I know I can't stamp directly on the burlap, but I'm going to be using some golden mediums and try and see if I can get a layer and stamp on that on top of the burlap so that I have a cool texture underneath, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks for joining me, and here comes the project. And I'm back. So I'm taking my piece of burlap, and I'm going to do this on the Big Shot machine with the tag die by Tim Holtz. And you're just going to make a sandwich with the bottom piece of plastic, then the die, and then you're going to place the burlap on top. Hopefully this piece is big enough, and then cover it with another cutting mat. And I know this works on the AccuCut, but I know a lot of people probably don't have the AccuCut, so I'm going to do it on the Big Shot. And you're just going to roll it through. Oops, you're going to roll the sandwich through. And cut that burlap in the shape of the tag. Oops, I forgot about those guys. They actually cut too. But there's the tag shape. And so I'm going to take it to my workstation and do something else with it. And I will be back. So now step number 2 is I'm going to use this heavy gel molding paste. It's a combination, so it's not quite as flaky as just the plain molding paste, but if you have the molding paste, you can just go ahead and use that. And I'm just going to take a blob of it, and I'm going to paint some onto the burlap. Now you could do this step first, and then you would have, and then cut your shape, so you could have the molding paste over the entire shape. But I kind of like the look of the edges, and I like to fray them. So I'm going to leave edges and just give a nice coating of the paste. And if you want, you can put texture in it. I'm going to try and smooth it because I'm going to try and stamp on it when it's dry. And that's probably good enough. And so then you're just going to let it dry. And when it's dry, I will be back. So I'm back, and the molding paste gel medium has mostly dried. It's still probably not completely dry, but I think it's good enough to work with. And as you can see, because it has molding paste in it, and because I did a thick layer, you really can't see the burlap underneath. If you did a thinner layer, I'm going to play around with this later, you can see I have a very, very thin layer, and in that you can still see the burlap through. So it's up to you how you like it. This one I probably won't stamp on, so I'm not entirely sure how that will work with the thin layer to stamp. Maybe I'll test a corner of it, but this is the one that I wanted to try to stamp on. And originally I was going to do like an overall, just kind of a texture stamp, and I think I'm going to try something else instead. I'm going to use actually a picture, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to use Stays On. You could use archival ink. I don't have my black one out, but either one will work on something that's glossy, and now that I have that medium on there, it's kind of glossy, so I'm going to use my Stays On ink pad, and hopefully it's not too dry, so I'm just going to ink up my stamp. And you probably want something cushy, like a mouse pad or a foam pad. I've got a lot of stuff under here, so I'm hoping that's going to be enough. And then you're going to stamp. And I'm thinking that this is not going to come out as a perfect imprint because the gel is kind of textured underneath. This is the one time I may say that you can rock it a little bit, just a very little bit. You really want to make sure you press down hard to get a good imprint. Cool. Now the cool thing is, I mean, you can see the image, but it is kind of not very detailed. So if you don't like it, it stays on anyway. I'm not sure about with archival. You can take some alcohol if you don't like it, and after you've just done it, pretty immediately you can just wipe it off. That's what I'm going to do because I don't like that. So we'll go back to my original idea, which is just to use a less detailed stamp. That actually made the medium a little tacky. So we'll let that dry for a minute while I go find another stamp. And I will be back. Hi, I'm back. And I just had another thought. I had some paint laying around from another project, so I thought, oh, maybe my ink pad was dry, so maybe I just need to have something a little bit wetter, and I thought, oh, let me give the paint a try. So I'm just going to use some golden paint and try and stamp using the paint, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm just going to use just like a makeup sponge. Usually I use a felt pad, but today I'm just going to do it this way for quickness. And I'm not going to use two different pads, so hopefully this will not contaminate my paint. Yeah, it seems a little bit wetter. Yeah. So let's give that a shot. So now my stamp is inked with paint, and I'm going to do the same thing. Stamp onto burlap tag. Oh, that came out better. Cool. So I kind of like that. I may just leave it as it is. I could go in and clean up those edges a little bit. Maybe come in with a pen later on and give a little more detailed, but I'm going to go off and let that dry, and I will be back. For those of you who have never stamped with paint before, I just want to, or even if you have, I just want to remind you, you always clean your stamps when you're stamping with paint immediately. Don't forget, go clean your stamp. Hi, I'm back, and my paint has mostly dried. So I'm just going to use these Pitt pens by Faber-Castell, and I'm just going to try and fill in some of the spots that I want to be a little more detailed. I can kind of shade some of this. If you wanted, you could outline them in black or white, however you wanted to do it. looking pretty good right now. Maybe pull in a little bit darker if I can. And maybe a little bit of the green. This is just scribble down here, so it's easy to make it work. Cool. So that looks kind of cool. And then if I didn't like this green, I would let the Pitt pen dry a little bit more. But I could go in and just kind of color in some of the white. I'm just using some powder, some pan pastel powder, but I could probably just scribble this down here. That looks kind of cool too. And then the same up in the sky. I don't really want to do that until the pen dries. But when I'm done, I will scan it in, and you can see the finished result. So thanks for joining me. See you next time. And I'm back. So I wanted to show you the finished tag. I used my ATG tape runner. You could use glue or medium, and I just attached the burlap to cardstock, cut in the same shape, frayed some of the edges, and now it's ready for a package. So again, thanks for joining me. See you next time.